Right now, it is time to welcome in Tim, Luke, and Greg Strom, the appraisal guys, the frickin' frack of Nick and Nack. You'll find them on the web at tqag.com. That is Treasure Quest Appraisal Group, but also on a Tuesday morning right here at Robin Hood Radio. Welcome in this morning, guys.
Good morning.
Well, good morning.
You're both back together. It's good to hear your voice there, Greg.
Thank you.
And you had an anniversary, right?
Yes, we did. 11 years.
Yes.
Man, 11 years?
That was 11 years ago, remember?
I do remember. I remember at the Interlake. What a nice wedding you had there. I'm telling you. Oh my gosh, 11 years has passed by. Holy smokes. And I worry about thinking about the songs. To me, current oldies are from the 80s. So time flies by, I tell you.
Well, that's funny that you say it's from the 80s or the oldies, because Greg has an interesting story of an email that we received last night about an antique from the 1980s.
Yes. It's a chalkware piece. We've talked about chalkware in the past, and if you're not aware of what chalkware is, if you've ever gone to a carnival and you win a prize, sometimes it's a little sculpture of a gnome or some animal, and it's plaster of Paris is all it is. And I received this email from a frantic email from this lady who had her mother gave her a large owl with the wings spread out and sitting on a log, and someone dropped something on one of the wings, and of course plaster's being very, very fragile, snapped it a nice clean break. And she's frantic, and she says to me, if you can help me figure out what it's worth, it would be great, because this is a priceless antique. And it's from 1980. Not to mention the fact that a definition of an antique is something that's more than 100 years old. But these were decorative items that were made cheaper versions of items, so that you didn't have to buy marble or stone. And unfortunately, the company is called, are you ready for this? Little Tim's Plaster Arts. So, and
you can't make this stuff up.
It was from Michigan. The company went out of business in 1977. They filed for dissolution.
So her stuff couldn't have been from the 80s. It was probably from the 70s, but still not an antique.
No.
Yeah, because they were only in business for 43 years. So, and even though the date she says on there, it says 1980, which is possible because they I don't know why it would say that, but I did some research, and a number of their items do say Little Tim's Plaster Arts Inc. 1980, and you can find them on Etsy, you can find them on eBay, but you will not find them at Christie's or Sotheby's. So I have to break the news to this lady that, what she has, I can put a price on her mother's owl, but I can't put a price on her memories. So unfortunately, what we have is just a decorative owl that the neighbor who dropped the piece on and broke it just wants to know how much it's going to cost to repair it. And I haven't gotten that far yet, but unfortunately, it's a decorative. Even if it was in perfect condition, it would be a decorative item. But the interesting thing to me is not so much the break or the fact that she thinks it's an antique. In researching this, I discovered there is a tremendous interest in collecting owl memorabilia, which and not just recently, just down through the years. You can, if you just go in and type in plaster owls or chalkware owls, you would not believe some of the items that come up. There's a great deal of interest and love and reverence, I guess would be the right, a better choice of words, for collecting owls, and not just an owl, different species of owls. So I can kind of understand uh, her her frustration in thinking that this is a, well, how am I going to fix this fine antique? But the fact is, it in itself is worth maybe $35 to $50 in perfect condition. But the more interesting thing is I learned something about owls.
Well, my question
Right,
is,
but
though, who is the target demographic for owls?
Oh,
who,
yes.
but the big thing here is that she also, if she wants it, it may cost more to have it fixed. So you're going to have to just guide her to, she needs to go to either a restorer or somebody who works on this to get some sort of estimate on what it's going to cost to fix, because that's ultimately what she wants, because she wants to keep the piece. It's a clean break, and that's what she needs to know. Is it's not so much about the value of the piece, but what is it going to cost to bring it back and fix? Because if it's a clean enough break, you can do that, and then because the piece is not so valuable, there's not that much of a diminution of value, big word for Tuesday morning, but that's where that's really, and that's what we do a lot of, is we do a lot of this in insurance, because they just want to know, hey, what is it going to cost to get fixed, and is it going to diminish the value if I do get it fixed? Well, for something like this, no.
I won't charge her anything, but I can tell her in simple 2 words: Gorilla Glue.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Me too.
The exact. You stole the words. We really are separated at birth.
But really, Gorilla Glue, you can put it, and now that they have it, so you can really put little bitsy things on it. I've used Gorilla Glue, and it just never not holds. Never.
Well, but in their advertisement, it says, "And it's good for crafts."
Well, you know what? Her ultimate goal is, it's actually her neighbor's ultimate goal. The person who broke it, and it was an accident. The neighbor wants to know how much, what it's worth, so that they can reimburse her. And so I don't know. See, Gorilla Glue is, I think, just a couple dollars. So that there you go.
Well,
there.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
and I think you just have to. Yeah, we'll craft a response, but we thought that was an interesting story.
That's a very good word for this.
Craft exactly.
But nothing that you're going to say is going to make them feel better.
No.
That's
it isn't.
It's one of those situations where no matter how you respond to it, they're not going to be happy with the response.
And I am sensitive to the tone in her email, because she's obviously, this was a family piece that was handed down to her from her mother, who I don't know this for a fact, but I'm gleaning from the tone of the email that her mother's no longer alive. So I understand the sentimentality of that. But, we've talked about this numerous times on the show about the value of sentiment. It just doesn't have value, doesn't exist with sentiment, except it's a very personal.
Yeah, your own emotional value of it. Yeah, but that doesn't translate out to other people and money. It just doesn't.
No.
If you have something that you really love, doesn't matter whether other people like it or value it or not. You do, and that's the complication.
Yeah. So that's my task for the day.
Well, I think I think what you should do. Did they send you a picture of it at all?
Oh yes.
Why don't you go on eBay and see if you can find one on eBay, and tell her just to buy one on eBay?
Oh,
Ben, that's how I discovered Yes, that's how I discovered the adoration, if you would, of owls over the years in plaster. It's kind of an unusual thing, but They're they're they do have I don't even know what the word is. They do have a following, a following. So, but
Well,
anything that I saw for sale was, under $100. So,
I used to have
Yeah.
an old flight instructor, Hank Kramer, who was a great guy, who taught me how to fly when I was learning how to fly to become a traffic reporter. And he used to say about people's opinions, whatever likes your board, you know, whatever floats your boat. I mean, you have a million of these out there, but well, I hope she gets some Gorilla Glue and can fix it because that'll make her feel a little bit better anyway.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Exactly.
based on the photograph that she sent, it was an extremely clean break. And I think that she'll be able to glue it back together with confidence that it'll hold. And she just might be able to touch it up a little bit so that you really don't notice it that much. Because she obviously loves this piece very much. And I understand that. So I'm going to try to help her the best that I can.
You're a good
That's
man.
all we can do.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
Yes.
So has there been any more excessive spending that would appall our listeners on bids recently over the past
No,
week?
that's coming up. There's a number of things coming up, but in the meantime, I have an interesting story of what not to do when you want to send things to auction. So there's an auction company that's in Bristol in England, and they received, I guess, mail on Friday, and they were off on Friday. So this mail sat in their letterbox over the weekend. And when they came in on Monday, somebody had just put in the post a pair of wire rimmed glasses and with a note saying, please, I'd like to sell these. These belong to Gandhi. And I have all the provenance, and here I can prove. And they were a gift. They were gifted to, I think it was a family member, and we would like to sell these. So, having sat in the mailbox, the letterbox for the whole weekend, they were lucky that first they weren't damaged, and second that they weren't just taken. But nobody would, thank goodness, they didn't see them. But the auctioneer was very and taken aback by this on Monday. It was in the news, and these are going into an auction that takes place, an online auction at I think it's the end of this month, like toward the end of this month, 21st. And when they called up the consigner and said, why did you send this? And they said, well, we thought that this would be the best way to get it to you so that you would take notice. Well, hopefully, thank goodness they weren't lost. So if you are ever going to consign things to an auction, please let them know what you have before you send it, and then make sure that you have some sort of confirmation of delivery, because
I'm sorry I'm laughing. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but
yeah. No, I know. And they're up for auction, and they anticipate the auction house the auction house anticipates that the glasses should sell in around the 15,000 pound range. So we will keep an eye on that. We'll see what that ultimately sells for at the end of the month. But I thought, what an interesting story is that things just show up. People mail things in, and they just think, well, yeah, I think it's time for me to part with this now. Let me just mail it to the auction house.
That's yeah. I just hope they never get a letter from a Nigerian person saying they're stuck in an airport and they need money because
Without their glasses.
oh, I just got one
Right,
yesterday.
no, right.
And
We
she
still
called me
get
my dear.
those.
Yeah, and she called me my dear love. So I'm smitten. I'm ready. I'll send a check. You just tell me where to send it.
well, this has nothing to do with auctions, but I want to pass this along because it does have things to do is how stupid people can be sometimes. And I don't know if you guys saw this or not. The National Park Service, a lot of people visiting the parks, and there's a lot more bear sightings recently, right? So the National Park Service issued things not to do when a bear possibly might attack. And do you know what the number
Oh,
one?
goodness.
Do you know what the number one thing not to do on the list is?
I would say run or scream.
No, do not push slower.
Feed the bears.
Do not push slower friends down on the ground, thinking that you'll get away. No, I'm
Oh
serious.
my
I'm
goodness.
serious. Do not push slower friends on the
Wow.
ground.
That's legitimate. That's a real thing.
That's a real story. The first tip.
Oh my God.
The first tip: please don't run from bears or push your slower friends down in an attempt of saving yourself.
Wow.
That tells you all. That tells you all you need to know about America, ladies and gentlemen. On that
Pretty
note,
much.
on that
Pretty
note,
much.
guys, Greg, it's great to hear you back on the radio and sounding so good. And happy anniversary a couple of days late, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Marshall. Have a good week.
All right, we'll speak to you next week.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Tim Luke and Greg Strom, the appraisal guys, the frickin' frack of Nick and Knack with Appraise. This, you'll find them, of course, at tqag.com on the web.